thoughts. I mean, I was taking notes all game, but it feels right and appropriate to me that this game went the way it did because it encapsulates this Seahawks team, this Seahawks season, to win with a defensive masterpiece, a shutdown. After this was the best team in football season long, but most notably, it was the best defense in the league. It was a defense that in the second half of the regular season, when the offense struggled, and people forgot that after the NFC Championship, the defense held it together. The defense won close games. The defense won games when the offense tried to give it away. Mike Macdonald becomes the first defensive play caller in the history of the sport to win a Super Bowl. A massive, massive season for him. Instantly one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the NFL. Whatever, I'm being extreme. To me, that's just, regardless of what happens at MVP, I do love that this ended, that the game was about the Seahawks defense, because the Seahawks defense, to me, was the story of the 2025 NFL season.
And the true game-winning play is the Uchenna Nwosu pick six, right? That's the one that puts this thing to bed, where you know for sure Seattle's going to win it. And it is a defensive call, right? I mean, like, it's a great rush by Spoon. It's a great play by Nwosu. But it is hurry up, no huddle. They have swapped the defensive line. They're switching personnel in and out. And Macdonald gets to a blitz call, which, like, this is one of their, like, you know, like, go-to blitzes. It's like probably, like, you know, a short 2-word call, but still hard to do in that moment. Say, you know what? While we're bringing guys on and off, let's communicate a blitz. Let's get it lined up and let's go. They get the free rusher. Nobody's hot for May, because of course nobody's hot for May. They wouldn't. How are they blitzing in this situation? Yeah. And then they get the hit. They get the fumble, pick six, whatever you want to call it, and then it's intercepted. So not just a defensive masterclass, but a defensive call encapsulated and distilled into one play that is the game winner. House call, ring, 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 Uchenna Nwosu, ball game. We're Super Bowl champions. Just a sick Mike Macdonald game at the end of a sick Mike Macdonald season. So cool to see. So validating to see.
The Seahawks only blitzed 7 times in this game, which is not insane, obviously, if you watched the Seahawks at all this season. This is not a blitz-happy team. But insane if you think back to how the game felt. It always felt like there was a free rusher, or the Patriots had a miscommunication, or, let's be real, Will Campbell was getting cooked. We'll get to that. But the Patriots offensive line struggled so much with all of the varied overload, simulated pressures, the different things that Seattle was throwing at them up front, that they didn't have to blitz. But when they did blitz, 7 blitzes, 6 resulted in pressures. Drake May went 3 for 6 for 18 yards and an interception, the one you mentioned, against the blitz. I think that's
Devon Witherspoon.
Yes.
Devon Witherspoon, 14 games this season, 21 total pass rush snaps. In this game, the 15th game, 6 pass rush snaps, including the final one. I mean, like, all season long, it's been, man, they're really not rushing Spoon, and Spoon's the best blitzing corner in the league, but they don't really need to. He's been so good in coverage. They're not really doing it. Yeah. And then in classic Super Bowl fashion, baby, we've been keeping this one tucked the whole season. And they started sending him 2 times on the first drive, got the big sack, and then the final play. I don't think Spoon is my MVP. I think it would be Kenneth Walker for me personally, because this offense would be in a really bad way.
He carried it. Yes.
Yeah, without Kenneth.
I'm not going to be mad.
But if Spoon wins it, it'll be justified. Yeah, very much so.
I think if it's a defensive player, it has to be Spoon. Derek Hall has a strong case, obviously, 2 sacks himself. I thought, so many Seahawks defensive players. Eamon Worry made amazing plays. Byron Murphy II, Nwosu. They were both which again, to go back to the
Derek
theme,
Hall.
I mentioned him. Yeah, he did 2 sacks. Was representative of who this team was all year long. This is not a defense led by a singular star, a dominant rusher. It's a defense where over the course of the regular season, 6 different players had over 30 pressures, which was the most of any team in the NFL. It was a defense without crazy superstars, but many stars, and they all played together so well, which is another thing I want to talk about, the way the pass rush and the coverage worked together, the way they contained May, which was a massive part of this game. But to go back to your Spoon point, because I thought he was magnificent in this, it was funny. I think like his first blitz, Collinsworth was like, "Here comes Devon Witherspoon." They love to blitz him.
Yeah, that to me felt like one of those. He got told. I think it's one of those, he got told in the production meeting that we're going to send Spoon more, right? Like he got told by
Ooh,
the
like a
coaching
little.
staff,
Why
on
would
when.
they tell him
Right.
that though? I don't know.
Collinsworth, I feel, of all the broadcasters, always has something in like the first quarter of his games where he's like, and this is something that's going to be big for them, and then he's right, like it happens over the course of the game.
All right.
And they when Spoon had the sack, or the forced pick six, whatever, he said in the broadcast, he was like, they've been running this blitz all game, and they weren't running like that precise blitz, but they had been bringing Spoon all game, and so to me, like that was clearly something where they felt like we can get to this, and they're not ready for this tendency wise.
Not only was it the most times he had blitzed the entire season, he hadn't blitzed in like 5 weeks. Like I pulled up his game log, this is something we were talking about during the game, and like talk about a tendency breaker. This is again, to me, one of the genius aspects of Mike Macdonald's play calling is the way every defensive game looks a little bit different. The players are in slightly different positions, the types of pressures they run, the downs on which they send pressure or don't, or send, it is very different. But yeah, he was excellent. Yep. The coverage too. I mean, look, May was not good. We're going to get to that. But in addition to the offensive line really struggling, obviously, against the Seahawks defense, and May himself being sped up by it, and there were a few moments when guys were open, but for the most part, I thought the coverage was excellent. And I think more so than the coverage, Ben, what struck me in this was the tackling by the defensive backs. On the very first series, the Patriots broke a couple tackles, and I was like, ooh, that could be an issue, right? Like this is, but because the pressure is so good, or May was so sped up, especially after Will Campbell started losing immediately, and Josh McDaniels tried to, on early downs, just call some quick, easy completions, throws to the flats, but it felt like every single time they tried something easy, the Seahawks were in position to limit gains. Josh Jobe. Who thinks about Josh Jobe? He was fantastic in this game.
I came in saying, like, maybe your best matchup that you get is Kayshon Boutte versus Josh Jobe on the outside. They went to it in the second half, that back shoulder ball, and Jobe just had Boutte in jail, in the white paint, not even against the sideline, ineligible receiver, right? And that's where you bring up the point of, like, the little bit like this nameless defense, this deep defense is like, all right, DeMarcus Lawrence, Derek Hall, Devon Witherspoon, they had their big plays, whatever. Jobe had a great play in this one. Ernest played very well in this one. Like, you just have guys on guys on guys. So even when you like get a matchup that you think you want, you're still like barely got it to a 50-50. You only got it to a neutral, and then you're able to win those neutrals. I do think that your point, like tackling wise, I was sitting there in the third quarter, just like, man, you would have thought by now that they could have gotten Drake a quick completion underneath that just creates after the catch, and just like 10-yard gain. Like, why? Like, are they gonna get an open swing route? And they finally got one to Ramondre Stevenson when they were like backed up there against the 5. And it's like, dude, it took them 2.5 quarters to just get like a check down with room. That's how suffocating coverage was in this game.
I do want to get to Josh McDaniels and the coaching and how I felt like the Patriots were really outcoached in this one. Both in terms of the coordinators, but also overall some of the decision-making by Vrabel. But let's talk for a minute about both Will Campbell and Drake May, because while the Seahawks defense is the story of the game, Kenneth Walker's the story of the game, but obviously the Patriots offense completely laying an egg. I think you have to almost talk about them together because, so first of all, Campbell, I just asked for this. He gave up, have you looked this up, how many pressures he gave up?
No, I have not. I'm not sure I want to hear it.
Yeah, it's not great. 14 is what NGS
14?
has. That's more than a quarter of the snaps he played in this game.
That's more than 13, man. That's a lot of pressures.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
That's really rough. The most any Seahawk gave up was 5, which was Zabel, interestingly, because it felt to me like Bradford was getting cooked by Milton Williams. But anyways, okay, so the way what I felt watching this was Will Campbell just lost immediately. Like let me go back to my notes. At the very first drive in this game, Will Campbell, the other thing, like, okay, this is Josh McDaniels saying, he left him alone a lot early in this game, which I found absolutely befuddling. On the very first drive, it's like just a 4-man rush. Derek Hall beats him immediately. And then there's another 4-man rush. Eamon Warray chases down Drake May scrambling. And then on the third down of that drive, it's a cool pressure. It's like a simulated thing where Witherspoon comes unblocked through the B gap and chases down May and forces an incompletion. But anyways, Campbell loses immediately. Second drive, Campbell loses. That's when Spoon has the blitz opposite him on the second drive for a sack. So this was like the most obvious thing of the entire postseason, or I'm sure you guys, if you're watching this, if you're in a live Super Bowl recap, you've probably consumed a lot of NFL podcast material, and you're aware that Will Campbell's probably the number one thing literally every show on earth was talking about this week, and it was borne out. My feeling was that you could feel after, like almost immediately after that, May just being sped up. And it felt like he was never comfortable from a pretty early on in this game. And it was like I want to go back and watch the pressures, but Seattle so often would like show a blitz from Campbell's side, and you could just feel him like, oh, it's gonna cut you, he's about to get beat. And I think it led to not just some poor decisions, especially later in the game. Obviously, he had some pretty big misses, but like he just wasn't playing on time. There was like no. And I'm not saying guys were like wide open, but there were moments where I'm like, hit the check down. And it was like, even though he had to do that to avoid pressure, his entire process seemed completely off kilter very later in the game, and he really struggled because of it. I was disappointed he didn't run more. I actually called more designed runs with him early on.
I was expecting more of that.
And like I was also like I just also felt like they could have made some adjustments to try to help with pressure early on. The first deep ball completion out of the game came out of 6 offensive linemen, and they just like never called it. They just like didn't call it again in the first half. But I think this was like a real learning lesson moment for him. Obviously, difficult postseason against some very challenging defenses, where he was like very rattled by pressure, and then as the game went on, he started pressing, and then the decisions